What is going on, IBL fans? TenaciousFox here, joined by my co-host Buttermink, and we are bringing you your Week 6 Pick'ems. Okay, so for our first match of this week, we have the Baltimore Orioles and the Pittsburgh Huge Powers, and I have picked the Baltimore Orioles. Who have you picked?
I have also taken the Baltimore Orioles. Looking at the matchup right now, Mew and Weavile, with their opposition having the combination of Mega Lopunny and Zygarde 50%, look the fact that he can't bring Sun on his team, because if he does, then Infernape just runs him through the butt. Infernape in the Sun is a monster of a Pokemon. You don't want to mess with that motherfucker. If he can't bring Sun, then he's going to have a really tough time breaking through like Steelix, and he's going to have a tough time breaking through Tentacle anyway, because the only thing I see as for it is Metagross, which is actually gets outsped by Tentacle if he decides to run some speed.
Yeah, those are all pretty good points. This pick I made is more on the basis that Ben has really started to get momentum in the league. He obviously had a horrible start, getting nearly 6-0 his week 1, but he has won 3 in a row, and I don't really see any reason why he can't carry that on. He does have a fairly decent matchup here, though. I agree with you that he has a really decent matchup. The only thing that I see being a serious problem is the Mega Lopunny, but even then, I think he's got enough that he can kind of counter that it won't really affect him too badly. I see that Rio doesn't. He only has Rotom that can remove hazards.
Boyan? Okay, yeah, that's true.
Unless Torkoal gets Rapid Spin. Does Torkoal get Rapid Spin? I honestly don't know. But
I highly doubt he brings it.
One thing that I think that he could do is either run the Toxic Spikes. I could see that being run this week, or he could bring the Steelix and run some Stealth Rocks on it, just to get some good damage off of Rio's team, because really there's not much that the Huge Powers can do about it.
I agree. Like, they can't use one of their biggest strengths in the Torkoal Victory Bell combination, just because, then the Orioles get a really good position. If they can, get Infernape in on the Sun, then there's just no stopping that monstrosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, see, he probably won't bring the Torkoal, just because of that threat. So it's kind of irrelevant. Let me do a quick check here. I honestly don't.
It does get Rapid Spin.
Does. I mean,
yeah, it does.
He could run it as like a non.
He'd be using up a team slot for something more valuable that he could slot in there, honestly.
Yeah. So I really don't see that coming. Obviously, he's not going to run it without the drought. I don't see why he would do that. Just because the other two abilities aren't really that.
I mean, he doesn't even really have an Intimidator, so there's no reason to run White Smoke.
Yeah. So I just see that Mega Lopunny being the only thing that really gets traction on the Huge Powers team, and I think that the Orioles can easily counter that with hazards, as well as their monstrously defensive cores.
Mm-hmm. Like Alomomola or Tentacool, both of them eat high jump kicks for days, and Alomomola can chew on returns.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to our second match of the week. We do have the Lawrence Talonflames versus the San Jose Panquakes, and I actually picked the Talonflames to get the upset in this one.
Yes, actually, that is my pick as well. At this matchup, the first thing that crossed my mind right here is that Charizard X, if it gets going, is going to be near impossible to stop on Darude's team.
Yeah. That's actually kind of what I said too. I don't think that anything that the Talonflames has a glaring they've got, like, if they bring this out, they automatically win. Obviously the Charizard is pretty much there, but he does have the Palisand that can kind of counter it, because he's not really going to be able to do anything against that Palisand, even if he starts setting up. One thing that I think that the Hitmonlee could be a decent option as well, considering it does get Stone Edge, and if you look, that hits a lot of his team pretty well, especially some of his like better mons.
And also, like, his Mudsdale answers are pretty much limited to like semi-poor.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me rephrase what I said about Hitmonlee. Stone Edge gives it coverage to hit more of his team, because obviously the high jump kick is gonna do well against some stuff, and then the Stone Edge just gives it more coverage.
If he brought Power Herb Bounce Hitmonlee for the Mega Metacham, that would just be.
And I think the Bulu is a definite bring in this matchup as well.
Has to watch out for the Scolipede and the Mega Metacham, but if it can get in the right matchup, Bulu can actually, do fairly decently.
Yeah, because I mean that could be his counter for the Palisand as well.
Like, Palisand ain't ever staying in on a Bulu.
Yeah, right.
Unless you're insane. Unless you've, like, gone completely off the walls, banana nuts, bonker cakes.
But yeah, I just think this matchup just kind of really favors the Talonflames. And they've been playing a lot better as of late, so I see no reason why they can't pull off the upset.
It's going to be a good one to watch.
Of course. So let's move on to our third match. We have the New York XL Pikas and the New York Empoleons. I have the Empoleons. Who do you have?
I actually do also have the Empoleon, just because I think the only thing the XL Pikas have that threatens all of the Empoleon's team is Mimikyu, and there's a Ferrothorn sitting right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he made some pretty big changes to his team, and I really, really like the changes he made. There were some mons that he dropped that he hadn't been using at all, and I think his team is a lot better now that he made those transactions.
Now he has a Psychic immunity, which is what cost him big time when he was playing against Ben.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do think that Goldoa has played one of the toughest schedules up to this point. He's had no easy games this season, and I think that this is the first one that is like an easier match, just because of how the XL Pikas have played so far. So I kind of see this as a must-win for Goldoa. If he wants any chance to make playoffs, he has to win this game. He has to start getting momentum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's not much else that we can say about that one, so let's just move on to the next match. We do have the Carolina Pantherians versus I think it's the Milotics, Montreal Milotics. And I picked the Pantherians. Who did you pick?
I also picked the Pantherians just because I look at the matchup right now and I don't see, like, Techno has been using Mega Mawile like an absolute boss, and that can just run through most of minus like Landorus T, which is you can't switch in, because if it's behind a sub or it has Ice Punch, that Lando T is going to perish.
Yeah. One thing that is not updated on our roster sheet is that Techno actually, instead of having Dugtrio, he actually has Mamoswine. And Mamoswine absolutely runs a train on the Milotics team.
Absolutely. Like, Landorus T, Serena, Mega Pinsir, Gardevoir doesn't appreciate any physical stab.
It's not surviving attack from it. It's just
physical stab.
Yeah.
Not from a Mamoswine.
Yeah. Dragalge is going to get bodied. Jolteon is going to get bodied. Volby is going to get bodied.
Dragalge. Yeah, it wouldn't look very
Zangoose is a little bit bulkier, but it's probably not going to survive it. Yeah, it just...
5-1, but whether it does anything back...
Yeah.
Fine, not only does it do damage, it is thick as...
Now, the Registeel is a counter to that, and so is the Suicune. But I do expect Techno to have options to deal with those counters.
Because, he's a really good back. That those could be really good potential answers to his team.
But other than that, I mean, this match was really tough to. Obviously, is this the first season you've watched at the IBL? Correct.
Season, yeah.
I mean, Matt and his Milotics did make it to the finals last season and really put up a good match against Darude in that final match. So it's really tough to even pick against him in this match. But we've got two of one. One thing that I've noticed this season over last season is no one was really a bad coach last season. I'm not saying that, but the overall competitiveness and the overall skill level of the coaches is doubled or tripled since last season.
Yeah.
And we've got one of our best coaches from this season going up against one of our best coaches from last season. So, I mean, for me, last season in pick'ems, Matt was an automatic pick nearly every week just because he dominated the league. But it will be interesting to see how he does. And one other thing that I noticed is that while he did get to make a lot of transactions, he kind of had to pick from the leftovers. And my guess is that this probably isn't the team that he would have wanted coming back to the
beginning
IBL.
You can't always get what you want when you come in as a replacement, and everything good is gone.
But I mean, we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you, Matt. And also, I do think the Tornadus T has a decent matchup as well. I think you mentioned it.
T and Greninja both, sure, Suicune might be a problem, but if he can get into the correct position, I think I'm...
Sorry, you're cutting out.
Oh, sorry. I said if he can break that Suicune, which I think between, from Chip and if Mega Mawile packs Thunder Punch on, I think he can definitely take down that Suicune. Yeah, and then I said I think he can grab the V, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm channeling Winston Churchill.
I agree. We spent a lot of time in this matchup, so let's move on to...
I'm talking to a friend. I'm talking to a friend, Paul. I just started about 10 minutes ago. Hungry. I had a taco bar at work. About that. Family stuff.
You're fine. We have spent a lot of time on that matchup, so let's move on to our fifth match, which it's the Chester Chinchillas versus the Miami Malamarlins, and I really don't have a lot to say. All I really said was the Malamarlins are going to win this match. I'm not going to repeat what I've already said about the Chinchillas. I do hope they turn around their season soon, but I don't think they will.
And not to mention, just superior. Looking at his team, Vileplume looks like and Florges are his only two answers to superior. And, Mega Gallade with Zen Headbutt and Poison Jab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just hard for me to talk about this matchup considering, I'm sorry, JoesephGames, but how poorly you've kind of played so far this season. But, like I said, I hope that he turns it around, and I hope he turns it around soon. But, yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this match. So,
then
let's go to the Green Bay Pikachus and the Marlboro Mudsdales. I picked the Green Bay Pikachus. Who did you pick?
We picked the co-commissioner of this league. I went with Dark Devil Brendan and his Marlboro Mudsdales.
Fair enough. This one was actually a toss-up for me, to be totally honest. But depending on the teams that are brought here, I do think that Mega Gardevoir can put in some really good work against Brendan's team. You know, it can probably one-shot the Garchomp, assuming it's not scarfed, and he outspeeds. He can probably bring HP Fire for the Scizor. Obviously, Psychic type attack is going to take out the Hitmonchan, the Roserade. It'll have a fairy type. It'll have a fairy type attack for the Zoroark. Obviously, Brendan does have some options to counter it, but I do see the Mega Gardevoir putting in work here. Sorry about that. Buttermink did have to take care of some family matters, so it's just gonna be me for the rest of the episode. Obviously, I think that the Mega Gardevoir can put in really good work for the Green Bay Pikachus. There's multiple mods that it can take care of. Obviously, Brendan has got options to take care of it as well. So I do think that he's gonna be prepared for it. Now, I do see the Jacob's team being kind of limited here, because I think that Nidoqueen kind of might be a necessity to come. I think he might bring that just so that he doesn't have the Roserade set up toxic spikes on him. That way he can easily get rid of them. Obviously, and Nidoqueen is a pretty good. It's got a decent matchup here as well. So I do see the Nidoqueen coming. Additionally, Jacob is going to have something to keep the Milotic from stalling him out. And I think it might be Leavanny, or he might try something a lot more crafty. But I do think that is another factor in this match that's going to limit what he can bring. But one thing that I will note is that over the course of the season, Jacob's teams have been super unpredictable, which is why I have picked him in this match. Or at least that's the biggest difference that I see in this match. So I will move on to the 7th match of this week. We do have the Colorado Mamoswine versus the New York Cosmox. Now, I should be picking the Cosmox, right? They have had an absolutely dominant season. Last week aside, they did take their first loss last week, but it's hard to pick them in a matchup that is so glaringly one-sided. I know a lot of people say Coco Lucha is overrated, but it's definitely not overrated in this matchup at all. Like his team, the Cosmox get bodied by Eric's team in this one. He's got the Coco that can take out half his team. He's got obviously the Hawlucha that can come in at any time and take out half the team. And then he's got the Lowland Persian that can kind of counter the Necrozma. So it's just such a matchup issue for the Cosmox. I think that he's going to make a game of it, but I think in this match, it's such a lopsided matchup that he's not really going to be able to overcome that. Lycanroc can also put in a decent amount of work here as well. So it's too one-sided for me to pick the Cosmox. Okay, so let's move on to our final match of the week. We do have the New York Metagross versus the Colorado Bouffalants. And the Bouffalants are actually 4-1, and they've quietly gotten to this stage. Like, we haven't really talked about him in the pick'ems. The power rankings have kind of talked about him, but he's been kind of like a second thought. He's not been like one of the top 2 or top 3 that they've been picking. So I mean, they've kind of quietly dominated the league so far. They only have the one loss that was super close. Week 3 was their only loss to a close one to the Baltimore Orioles, and really they have a decent matchup here. Now normally Josh's team, Josh Ultraplayer, the New York Metagross, normally the Kieran Black is such a threat that really the other teams just can't really, they don't have any way to counter it. But I do think that a lot of those advantages that he usually has with that Karen Black are kind of neutralized against the Boufflants. He's got Mega Scizor that can come in on it. He's got the Tapu Fini that can debatably come in on it. The Incineroar can come in on it depending on the set that's run. And then of course the Licky can just tank hits for days probably. So he does have options. He really does. And I think that's going to be one of the limiting factors for the New York Metagross, just because normally they can put in a bunch of work with Karen Black and then just finish off with another Mon. One thing that Josh is going to have to use wisely is the Skarmory, because I do think that it has a pretty good matchup. I don't think that JB has a lot to deal with it. Obviously, he's got the Incineroar and the Raichu. Noivern gets Flamethrower. It might get Fire Blast as well. But like I said, I do think the Skarmory has a decent kind of a stally matchup in this one, where it can just be a huge nuisance. It's not going to like come in and just take a bunch of Mons out, but it could be a serious nuisance in this match. And I do think that that's one of the Mons that Josh is going to have to utilize. Also, JB's Mega Scizor just has a couple Mons that it can just straight set up on. It can straight set up. It can kind of set up on the Venusaur, depending on the set. If he runs like HP Fire or something, obviously that's not going to work out well. It can set up on the Rabombi. And really, it can kind of set up on the Karen Black as well, depending on the set. But like I said, the Mega Scizor has got a pretty good matchup. So, those are all the picks that we've made this week. I apologize that it was just me for the last part of it, but, stuff does happen. So, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.